Okay, well, thank you for being here once again. My name is Mashad Evans Jr. And today I'm going to be just really want to have a conversation with you. You know, get to understand more about our history, more about my history, and know how I'm in this position today, and how we have come to be in this position today. So first off, I'm just going to ask you your name. If you could share your name, your date of birth, and where you were born.
Oh, right. The date of birth?
Yeah.
My name is Betty Thomas. My birthday is June 18th, 1942. Just had my 80th birthday celebration.
Oh, well, happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you. Welcome.
And where were you born?
Columbus, Georgia.
Columbus, Georgia. Okay. I have some family in Georgia too, so.
Okay.
And just so you know a little bit about myself, I represent the Bethel AME Church YPD. Also represent Jack and Jill. So I serve as president of both of those organizations.
Oh, okay.
That's who that's who I'm representing today.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna, like I said, I don't want it to be more of a interview or like a kind of an interrogation. I just want to have a conversation and get to understand a few things, tackle a couple of topics. So that's the main thing I'm looking to do here. And also, if I make you feel uncomfortable at any time, just let me know. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. We just really want to be able to hear your story. That's what we want to do today. And once again, I just want to thank you for being willing to participate and taking time out of your day to be here today.
You're welcome.
Okay, so getting started. The first topic I want to look at or tackle is just getting to know your family's experience migrating from the south to the north. So could you just let us know, you said you're from Columbus, Georgia, but could you let us know where your family's from and their experience migrating from the south to the north?
I was raised in Columbus. Columbus, I don't know if you have ever noticed on the map, Columbus, Georgia, and Phoenix City, Alabama are like one place. You know what I mean? Is the city buses from Columbus run in Phoenix City, where we had moved to Phoenix City before we migrated here. So I say I'm up here by way of Phoenix, from Columbus by way of Phoenix City.
Okay, just a quick question, I'm sorry. So my grandfather himself, he is around Blakely, Georgia, which is not too far from another place in Alabama. So right along that line, are you familiar with Blakely or Irving County, Georgia?
No.
Okay.
Phoenix City and Columbus sit on the Chattahoochee River, so you just cross the river and you're into the other place. Phoenix City at the time was not built up very much. Belleville often reminds me of Phoenix City. Not now, but it did. Because a few people were able to buy a little piece of land and build their own houses. And that's what my husband's family did. That's how we left Columbus and went to Phoenix City.
Okay, I see. So, could you just give us a little bit of maybe a time frame, like how old you might have been when you were moving?
Now that will embarrass.
I'm sorry.
I was a teenager when I married my husband also. And, that was 57. We married in 1957, yeah.
Okay. And could you share with us your family's experience migrating from the south to the north, or maybe that might have happened a little bit later after the Great Migration?
It was unusual the way we came because we weren't thinking of jobs. My mother-in-law came here first to be with a daughter who had lost her husband at the time. And while here, she went to work in her place, domestic. And at that time in Phoenix City and Columbus, domestic workers were getting $3 a day, the whole day. And my mother-in-law found out that here she got $1.25 an hour. So to her, you know, that was great. And so our story goes from that. She was a mother of 12.
Oh, wow.
And she eventually, I call it recruiting. She eventually recruited all of her kids up here except for one. So eventually all 11 kids got here, and we were looking for jobs. And most of the women started working right away because it was easier to find some kind of work, you know, domestic work or what have you for us to do. The men, it took a little while until Ford Motor Company started hiring. Well, we arrived here in 1961.
Okay. In Michigan.
Yes, in Michigan. And it took a while, and it wasn't too long after that, a few years maybe, that Ford started hiring quite a few people. I think Reverend Frank S.L. Roberson, forgive my senior mind.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Reverend S.L. Roberson was a conduit for getting a lot of, you know, our men to work at the plant. And that really changed things for us, you know, because I never worked before I left Columbus, and it didn't do any good. Well, you know, if you're making $3 a day, you weren't making much money.
Okay. So can you just share maybe the differences you experienced when you transitioned from the South to the North? Maybe what the cultural differences, or you know, just some of the differences you experienced, something you may have noticed right away, you know, when you were transitioning, or once you had moved from the South to the North, from Alabama to Michigan.
Well, you know, when I moved here, it hadn't been too long, I guess, that segregation was stopped in the South. You know how it was in the South. I grew up in the area where, in the era where there was a line on the bus that you didn't dare go across. That's the way it was in Georgia, Phoenix City. And when I got here, you know, I didn't have to be concerned so much about where I was going or what have you.
Okay.
And that was a big difference. And, you know, still, when you come from that kind of culture, you're always cautious about, you know, what you're doing or whatever.
Excuse me, if you will. I just wanted to ask if you might have had a story of any discrimination or racism that you experienced while you were in.
Oh, I grew up with that. I can remember going to the back door of restaurants, you know, to order food. You couldn't go in the front. I remember the black and white water fountains. I can remember walking in stores and standing there waiting for the cashier to wait on me, and they see you, but they ignore you until another white person walks up and they would wait on them. I can remember running home from school not every day, some days, because we had to go through this white neighborhood walking. And, you know, the kids, and nobody would say a word, you know, it was okay. I remember a lot of things. But most of all, you know, you couldn't get ahead because of the low pay, I'm sorry,
Okay.
not long pay. But it's a lot of things you don't like to remember, you know, but they happen, and the sad thing is they're still happening.
Yeah. Yeah. So would you say that, I know you shared that your family, the main reason was for better opportunities with work, you know?
Yes.
$3 a day to $1
Yes.
a quarter in an hour, you know. So would you say that contributed to the reason that you guys were going there, or maybe some of the experiences that you guys
No,
just
it was the pay, really,
Just the
we
pay.
were looking at, looking for, to get ahead. When I came, I had 3 little, small children. And we were blessed in that my mother-in-law had this huge house that, you could stay in until you got on your feet and get your own place. And so in the beginning, it was tough because the 5 of us shared 1 bedroom. So you're so blessed. You think about where you came from. It was hard getting here, but it was worth it because we started out and our car broke down in Tennessee, and we had to find somebody willing to take us. And I think it was about 10 people in 1 car, which was unheard of. But that was before your seatbelts and all that stuff. I think there were 4 in the front seat, and the back was full. But that was how we got here. And you count your blessings every day that you survived, what all was going on. And thankful that you got here. And say, look where I am now compared to, when I first got here.
Thank you. Well, would you mind if we could take a quick break? I need some water. I should have probably got some before. Go for it.
Oh yeah, he said that, Beverly said that she had some cups of water. Oh,
So I don't know if those were.
yeah, I have somebody bring
Great job.
water.
So
Oh.
far. Yeah, it's rolling.
But everybody in Ann Arbor's gonna know my age now. I'm well known. Well, between Bethel anyway and my church, New Hope.
Oh, you're at New Hope.
I go to New Hope.
So, Bethel is just around the corner.
I know where I've been to Bethel many times.
Betty, would you like some water too?
No, I have my own little bottle.
So is what's his name? Green, the pastor there? Okay. My dad is the pastor of Bethel.
Oh, okay. I like your dad. I've been introduced to him, and I've been over there a few times.
Are you fine? I don't want to make. There's no equipment around.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, you're fine. Do you need to get up and move, or?
No. I just want to make sure. I mean, if I were to set this down,
Oh, yeah. Nope, you're just fine. We tried to keep cables away from everybody's feet, so. That's all pretty durable stuff.
Let's see.
Yeah, so there's a guy if you want.
I think
It's got a little pinch point, and then just,
I had it the first time. All right.
there you go.
Okay.
All right, as soon as Ben gets back up, just so that he doesn't pass through, we'll resume.
And did you guys move to Detroit when you moved here?
Did we go to Detroit?
Did you move from Alabama to Detroit?
No, we've been in Ann Arbor
Ann Arbor.
ever since
Wow.
we
That's interesting.
lived up on Fuller Street. They have big white apartments there now near State Street, but it was a great big house up on the hill there we lived in.
I also moved from Alabama to Michigan. I moved from Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I am ready whenever you are. I'm gonna, okay.
Okay. So as we get started again, next topic I want to get into is your older family members, maybe your grandparents or great uncles, your older family members during the time while you were younger, or if you could just share how they were cared for while you were in the South. Because for me, you know, everybody's different, but for my family, we always want to make sure our elders are taken care of and they're doing well. So can you just share how they were cared for and if they might have migrated with you to the North?
No, that would be hard for me to do. I was young, very young, when I married and I left home. So my parents and grandparents were still in Columbus.
Wow.
I grew up in a housing project. And so that's where my mother and father lived. And my grandparents lived in another area of town. And, you know, at that time they had clinics and things. If you could afford to, you could go to a doctor, but there were a lot of clinics or what have you that people could go to.
So you would say your parents or your grandparents, they stayed, or not your parents, I'm sorry, your grandparents stayed in Georgia.
My relatives, yeah. Now remember, my mother-in-law was the one that recruited.
Right.
So my father-in-law eventually came up too, but they were up here, so.
Okay.
And my husband's, I didn't know my husband's grandparents. No, I didn't. They were deceased, I think.
So would you know why your grandparents stayed in Columbus? Or?
Oh, when you get older like that, you don't move. You know, they say, I don't want to leave home. In fact, it's surprising that my mother-in-law, well, the only reason my mother-in-law left was because of the death in the family. Now, she probably would have never left Phoenix City had it not been for that. And then when she got here and experienced, you know, working and making so much money, then, you know, she thought, well, and you have to remember, she had built her own house in Phoenix City. But still, to her, the living was better, you know, here. So it was nothing for her. And I don't know exactly how old she was, but out of 12 kids, her youngest was in his 20s. So, you know, she was up in age when she came up here. So older people, you know, they even when they need to go in a nursing home, I'm not leaving my house. So
when you talk about the clinics and the healthcare, can you just explain how your family received healthcare while you were in the South, or if they?
No, I don't remember them really needing, and it seems they needed more when I left home than because I remember I got worried my grandpa broke his neck. He was in the hospital while I was in Florida at that time. And I don't know if my mother or father, they were pretty healthy when they, you know, when I was younger, they were pretty healthy. But I don't know of them receiving any care.
Okay, so out of your entire family, you guys didn't really need to?
No, I'll tell you one thing that happened in my life that was different when my second daughter was born, when my second child was born, in 58, I think it was, 59. She was delivered in a Seventh-day Adventist hospital, I think it was. Because at that time they weren't allowing black doctors in the city hospital, you know, in the hospital. So this was the only place, I take that back. She was delivered in what they call a lying-in hospital, or 2 or 3 of the doctors had bought this, you know, little building strictly for having babies, and because they weren't allowed in the big hospital. So I remember that happening. Now my third was born by midwife, you know, at home.
So when it comes to receiving health care, or when you're looking for a doctor or a nurse, your family would tend to go to the black doctors or the
If
people
you could
pursuing-
find
if you could
one,
find
yeah.
one. Wow.
Yes.
Was that by?
You wouldn't have trusted at that
You know-
time. I wouldn't have trusted a white doctor. You know what I mean? Not in that situation that we were in.
Okay, I see. So have you heard any? Do you guys hear any stories or anything that might have caused you to not trust them, or was it just the culture that was going on?
It was just the culture, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, when it comes to African American, the doctors and nurses, were there? I understand there weren't many. But,
No, very few.
Would you know of how, if they were, being able to receive the education for it, or was it something that was just not common? You wouldn't know. I'm sorry, trying to figure out how to phrase it, but.
Well, I would imagine not many could afford to go to school at that time, don't you think? You know, very few probably could afford to go to school. And then they probably couldn't get in where they wanted to anyway. So, times were really different. I try and tell young kids that, that they didn't grow up in it, so they don't know. I remember once in Boston when they were trying to integrate the schools, I think it was, and the people were setting the school buses afire, And my kids said, "Well, Mom, why are they burning the school buses?" And I had to explain to them, and they think it's so strange that I went to an all-black school,
Wow.
I said, the only time we saw a white person was when they were on program or something in an assembly. So, times were quite different. It was a relief to come here at least.
Wow.
I don't know how I want to say it, but anyway, you weren't so anxious all the time, let's put it that way, as you were in Georgia and Alabama.
So, another quick question I'd like to ask. So obviously, there weren't many black people that were pursuing a medical health profession in the South. So, what kind of professions would you guys look to pursue, or what was the most common thing that you would see, jobs you'd see black people working at the time?
Ooh, in Alabama and Georgia? Labor, hard labor and service work, a lot of domestics. Factory workers, especially like Columbus was full of mills that processed cotton. So there were a lot of mills around that. My father and my grandfather worked for a company called Bibb Mill. They made material and threads and stuff out of cotton.
So that was mainly hard labor.
Yeah, that and all other kind of stuff.
Right.
That, it came, but a lot of service jobs.
So was that, would you say it was a lot different when coming here compared to the jobs here in Michigan? Would you say they were a lot different compared to the jobs in Alabama and Georgia? Or?
Well, let's put it this way: you had access to them because in the South you knew not to try and get some of them, But here you kind of had access to get whatever job you want.
Okay. I just want to transition really quickly. Just, I know you guys experienced some discrimination and racism in the South, and I understand that may have been frustrating or disappointing, and you guys were happy to be able to have access to those jobs when moving to the North, access to a better life moving here. But were there any disappointments you experienced when you moved here to Michigan? Or
No, I've never,
nothing?
no, not for me.
So would you say there was anything that was really unexpected when moving here? Maybe what your mindset was on, Michigan, on the north, and something you guys just weren't expecting when coming here.
No, I really can't. So, I was young and hadn't done much. You know what I mean? I just lived in that area, so everything was an experience to me. It's like I said earlier, the anxiety wasn't there. When I went shopping or what have you. I don't know. No, I didn't have any disappointments, let's put it that way.
Okay. So you were mainly just glad to be here, glad
Oh.
for your family to be.
Thankful every day, Thankful every day. I thank God that He made a way for me to get here.
So you'd say your family definitely benefited.
Oh, yes.
Definitely benefited.
We often sit and laugh about, what a poor position we were in when we first arrived, but, and where we are now, you thank God for that. Kids are doing well, and we managed to raise them, without any problems, and help out the grandkids and what have you. So yes, we alive. I couldn't see, and it may be happening now in the South, but at that time, it wasn't back in the 60s, early 60s. We arrived here in 61.
So you guys definitely benefited. So can you share some of the sacrifices that you may have made, or maybe your family had made, in order to get here to Michigan from Alabama?
Sacrifices.
Yes, maybe you had to give up. No sacrifice.
Didn't have to give what we gave up. We were happy to give up. You know what I mean? Just meant leaving my other family, because as I said, most of my husband's family ended up here, but none of my family did. So we really, I really didn't give up anything. To me, I gained a lot, because I was able to go to work. Excuse me. And eventually we got on our feet and got our own house, and then a few years later we were able to buy our own house. So, just thank God it's been up and up.
Yes. Okay, so one question I'm curious about, or something I'm curious about, is maybe the civil rights movement. Were you participating in the movement at the time?
No, I was too young to, and it was a lot going on. I was too young, and then I hadn't, well, and in my young days I stayed pregnant, excuse the expression, but no, I wasn't anywhere near any of that, really.
Okay.
So I didn't participate in any of the civil rights movements.
Okay, so you were young when you came to Michigan. What was the support like towards the civil rights movement? Was there a lot of support coming from the North for the civil rights movement, would you say, or?
I don't have any idea. I can't answer that for you, sweetie. I wish I could.
So,
I was not involved in any of that when I first came here. I really don't have an answer for you there. But I know I wasn't involved in any of it. I've never been at a protest. The only thing I've done is voted Let's
Okay.
put it that way.
Mm.
But as far as going to protest or all this stuff, you know, I haven't done that.
So when it came to voting, was it relatively easy to vote in Michigan, or?
Yes, it's easy. Well, I was too young,
You're
I
too-
think, when
yeah,
I left
yeah.
Georgia, yeah.
Mm,
I never voted in Georgia or Alabama, no.
okay. You know, so what it sounds like to me is that the culture and just the overall, how do I put it, the feel of Alabama and Michigan is completely different, like two completely different worlds.
It was at that time. I think a lot has changed in the South now, you know, but it was at that time two completely different, you know, areas.
Well, I don't have any more questions for you, so I just want to say thank you once again for.
I'm sorry I couldn't answer them all for you,
fine.
but
You're fine. You're fine. But just thank you for taking your time out. Thank you being able to share with us your experiences and your story. I really appreciate that.
you're welcome. More than happy to.